Hello, everybody. I hope you're all having a great day. It is nice and cool. Like it's like right now it's like 81 degrees, but like we've had a lot of days where it's like 90s. So we got some nice weather going on for us right here in Pennsylvania. So, and right now we are in week 31 of Sign Comics. We are doing days 208 through 214. I just posted 214 today. So we're back on track where we're doing the previous week's postings on Twitter. So, and we continue where we left off. We're doing Force again. Um, with this one, and if we start off with day 208, which is Force number 20, signed by Mark Bagley and by Chris Ivey. Mark Bagley did the backup story. This is one of the books that I had him sign at Garden State Comic Fest. And it's so funny because I had him, I think it was like the first book I put out for him to sign. And he looks at it and he goes, did I do anything? Did I do something in this? I'm like, yes, you did. And I was like, yeah, you did the backup story. He goes, really? And he had to flip through and look at it and verify, yeah, that was me. He's looking, God, I was raw. I was young when I did that. And I'm like, yeah. And I told him, I was like, yeah, I get the stuff that I like, sign, not the stuff that might be of value. And that's the reason why I told him, I said, I was like, with Spider-Man 375, I go, yeah, I said, I'm having you sign this one because I have so many other signatures on it. I said, you got to join the team. And so it was, he, I think he appreciated the books I was having him sign because it was like I don't get to sign these books very often. So he was excited. So, and as you can see with this, I I focused on the people when I was off camera after I was done doing the video last weekend, and I worked out more of the shadows on the blankets. So that's where I'm picking up where I kind of left off. Uh, I did figure out how I'm going to do the chimney. So, and what I'm trying to do with my videos is now remember this is the first page for the Printer's Devil for John's Long Box, and he just launched his second campaign on Kickstarter. So if I'll share one of the links, whether it be Fund My Comic or Kickstarter, in the comments. So if you're interested in supporting John, which will, if he's able to get to like issue like 4 or 5, that's when this book will be in it. So I would appreciate your support. So along with supporting John, support me, please. Give me a like, give me a comment, share it out. So I'd be greatly appreciative. That's one thing I don't do a lot of. I don't do a lot of asking people to uh, hit the like button. So I gotta be better at doing that. So hit the like, people. Hit the like, please. So helps me out. Comments also with this issue 208. Dr. Mask he commented how this was an interesting one to get signed. He goes, "Are you a fan of the New Universe?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a big fan of the New Universe." I specifically DP7 and Cyforce. I did like Starbrand at the end with John Byrne. He really took it, and like I said, John Byrne's the one that changed everything with the New Universe by blowing up Pittsburgh. I know it was done out of spite for Jim Shooter, and they just fired him, but I'm glad that they did. It made the book completely different from regular mainstream Marvel. So, and I still, so whenever I have the opportunity to get a New Universe book signed, I will. Just as Day 209, Cyforce number 23, signed by Fabian Nicasia and by Graham Nolan. This is one of the very first books I ever had Graham sign when I saw him for the first time at Garden State about 3 years ago, and I remember he was like he looked at me and he goes oh he goes I don't he goes oh he goes I haven't seen one of these, and he goes for so long, and he admitted he wasn't happy with how he was doing it. And then he told me about how uh, the following issue, number 24, he wasn't able to do it because here he thought he was having severe pains, that Julie had to call his editor to tell him, because he was like going to the hospital and all that stuff. And here he thought it was like his appendix. Here it was just a bad gastro infection. So, but yeah, so no, this was, and I really, again, this was great because it was a tie-in with DP7, and to really give you that tie-in feel, Paul Ryan did the covers for both DP7 and Cyforce, and he did the same image just from reverse. So you had characters in the foreground and characters in the background. And then when he did the other cover, he flipped it, so the characters in the foreground were now in the background were now in the foreground, and the foreground characters were now in the background. And again, as a kid, I was like, oh, that's really cool, because that way there's sometimes they say it's a crossover, but it's like barely a crossover. This one, the way they did it with the covers, you knew, no ands, ifs, or buts, this is a crossover. And it was a good one because Cyforce, Wayne, and they were breaking the one guy out of the military camp, and Mastodon, him and Jeff, the speedster, and Pitbull were stopping them, and Mastodon at the end, he lets them out. He lets them escape, and lets the redheaded guy leave with his friends from Cyforce. So I did enjoy seeing Graham tackle the DP7 characters in this book. Graham may not appreciate it, but I most certainly did. So, so again, having so many issues of Cyforce signed is a real treat for me. And like I said, we going from issue 23, which was day 209, to day 210 with issue 24 of Cyforce. Now, again, this one for me is a great issue, not just because of what happens in it, but I have so many signatures to it. Lee Weeks did the cover for it. Mark Bagley, he was very young. He was still brand new. He filled in for Graham on this issue. And then we have Chris Ivy, I think Chris Ivy actually did the I think he did the backup pencils to the backup story. And Mark McKenna did the inks. And again, this is one of those when they did the draft. And I think I have the draft as one of the back in the D's, back when I did the D's of signed comics. The draft was one of the books that I had shown, and that one was one where I had my issue with the draft was it ends. It just simply ends. It doesn't. It ends like it ends with a cliffhanger. But even the cliffhanger just simply is like it ends. And so with this backup story, it picks up where the draft left off with the one paranormal pretty much going insane, and he shows up on the live TV debate where Philip Vost is uh, campaigning to be president, or actually, I think he already became president at that point, and he blows himself, like how he when he teleports, it creates an explosion. So he shows up, teleports out, and creates an explosion, and the president's now greatly deformed by the end of the issue. Here, his face comes back. So it's one of those like, okay, he has the mutant ability not just to control and mentally control people. He has the ability to heal, and so again, it's like finally we found out what happened in the draft. So, but and then we go from there. We go to Punisher number 20. I'm sorry, Punisher number 83, day 211, done by Mark McKenna. Mark McKenna did the inks, and I will tell you, I said this to Mark, the artist who was doing it, uh, his anatomy and his facial structure was kind of wonky. It was like one of those, like he would draw the face and the structure of the face right, but the facial expression would be shifted or an angle. The facial expressions and the facial structure didn't match the head structure. Same thing goes with the bodies. It was just like I said, it was really wonky, and you could tell this was definitely during the '80s when they were just spewing out so much stuff that it was like one of those. It's like we gotta get the book out, and so and Mark McKenna, he did a good job. What I kind of like about this time also was because they're just creating IP after IP after IP in the Punisher comic book. They had a Punisher task force. So basically, it was a SWAT team that was designed specifically to handle the Punisher. And they established right off the bat that there's one of the guys on this team is a complete psychopath, and he'll kill anybody he can just to get the Punisher. And this one also, it was truly an example of the era, and I felt that uh, it was interesting because you always got something new and different, and where now, because Marvel and DC, they only do what's safe, so they only do what's the safe characters. They don't even look at older IPs that they've abandoned. And the whole like the Code Blue team that was in the FF and Spider-Man, along with Thunderstrike also, along with the Wild Pack from Silver Sable, and this Punisher Strike Force team. I look at it as one of those like those are IPs that you can readdress them almost as a blank slate, and because they did so little with them, it gives you the freedom to really experiment with some of these stories that you want to do, but it's one of those where it's like you're completely bastardizing the main IPs. It's one of those where it's like you don't bastardize the main IP. If you're going to bastardize anything, bastardize these old IPs that they've abandoned. So that's how I view it. So we go from Punisher to Punisher War Journal. This is issue number 9. We're at day 212, and this is signed by Carl Potts. This was an issue done by Jim Lee in his early days. He did pencils and inks, and when you look at it, you can see. Remember how Jim Lee had his core style. Remember, Jim Lee is just very good at anatomy. Okay, that's one thing a lot of people say about how like Rob Liefeld and uh, oh god, Mark Silvestri, uh, Eric Larson, Todd McFarlane, how they didn't have good anatomy. Jim Lee had very good anatomy. He had very good anatomy, but at the same time also he was still semi uh, experimenting with his style. And when you look at this issue, you can see where he's got some Kevin Nolan influence in him. So he's putting down like excellent anatomy, but then he covers it then over the finishing pencils over top of it has a semi Kevin Nolan feel to it. Because remember, also during this time, he was doing covers for Alpha Flight with uh, uh, Kevin Nolan over top of him at the time. So I can see where he possibly was influenced by that when he was doing pencils. Because, like I said, he did pencils and inks for this issue. So, but this was like also one of those deals where it's like Carl Potts did the story, and it was an interesting story. So, and it's kind of like a one-off issue, which they did a lot of during those times. Which I do enjoy the one-offs because it's one of those where it's like you don't have to read 10 issues to understand what's going on. It's just a simple, basic story that you can follow. So, and it also, I see also where the importance of one-offs is important is because it proves that the writer can tell a story. The color does that. The writer, okay, you have 8 pages to the story. Well, I need 10. I need 15 pages. No, no, you get 8 pages to tell this story, and it's up to the writer. To like, okay, I've got 8 pages. This is the story I can tell. So, but no, so I like that. And then of course we go to day 213 with Punisher Warzone 7. Now, Warzone 1 through 6, they had it where Punisher was going up against the cartels and the mob, and he ends up going down to like the Caribbean to fight to take care of the mob. And in it, he has to goes in disguise as the head mafia's he the daughter of the mafia. He basically becomes her girlfriend, her boyfriend, to get close. And in the end, he leaves her alive. So he comes back to New York and it's like, okay, let's get back to what I'm good at. Let's just take a nice walk in the park. Let's kill some muggers. Let's kill some drug dealers. Let's maim some people that are doing things wrong. And in this issue, he's tracking down a mugger, and here at the very end, you discover that the person, the girl who was taking a jog in the park, here she was a off hours police officer, and she was doing this on her own to try to track down this mugger. And at the very end of the issue, uh, it's freeze on the police, like it says in the cover. Well, it's revealed that it's this female uh, police officer. The following issue was basically she's like, "Hey, I got." She has the drop on him and everything, and all of a sudden there's a screaming, and he looks at her and goes, "I got better things to do than deal with you." And he just runs. He just starts running off, and she's like, "Hey, come back here." And it turns out, in the end, as the story progresses, it's the two of them going after uh, the muggers or whoever it was, and it leads into the follow-up story where the mobster's daughter has hired a team of assassins to go after the Punisher. So, and here's where this police officer, this female police officer, it's like, you think it's a one-off character just for this story? No. As things progress, she eventually becomes like a Punisher herself, and she has a Punisher costume. And she was actually in that issue that I signed by Mark McKenna, Punisher number 83. Which again, it's so you think about it. They did all this stuff about with Frank Castle, and then we have to neuter him, and his wife was going to leave him, and this, that, and the other thing. It's one of those where, like, if you want to do all your LGBT stuff with a character, you have we. Why not? Again, leave Frank Castle alone. Go use an unknown IP that you've established, that you've abandoned. Have your fun with that female Punisher. That way you have like that woman's lib and woman power and all. Here she's a lesbian, and you get this, that, and just have fun with it. I mean, that way you're not pissing off fans, and they're like, oh, it's a female. Oh, she's a lesbian. Surprise, surprise. But it's like, it's not Frank Castle. You're not beating up. You're not demeaning Frank Castle because you're using the female character as your proxy for your fanfic. So that's where I look at it. So, and then of course we end the week with day 214, and it's Pit number 3, signed by Mark Morales. Mark Morales got his start as an assistant to Joe Rubinstein. And so he did pencils for this issue. So like he did like the chains. Like he was like, I remember showing it to him, and he's opened up and flipping through, and he was like, ugh. He goes, yeah. He goes, I did the chains here, and he's just showing you, and he showed me like, yeah, I did the chains here, and he did the chains here. Hey, I guess Joe Rubinstein didn't want to do any of the chains. There weren't, and he was like, here, you're my assistant. Here, you do it. What I really found interesting though was that how Mark Morales was giving credit as an inking assistant to Joe Rubinstein, and that's how he got his start, was doing that to Joe Rubinstein. So, okay, we're pretty much done. I've covered all the books, but you see how I've done that. How I have I've now gone in and I've really been able to fill in those blacks, fill in these shading areas of the blanket, so it gives it form. So, when I had this assignment, one of the things I had to look at was I was told specifically that there were kids. All the kids were in the beds. There was like 2 beds, and there was like 5 boys and 4 girls. And I'm like, how do I draw that many people? And knowing that really all these kids are is a framing device, because the most important person in the panel is, of course, the father, and the second person that's as important is his daughter, who's the one asking for the story about her grandfather, Bose. So for me, I looked at it and I go, these guys are all framing devices. So how do I get them in? So that's the reason why I put them like lumped all in, and how like we established, it's a cold night and the kids are bundled up under the covers to go to bed. So that's the reason why I have them all lumped together, and I have like this one here is sleeping against his older brother, and this is his body under the blanket. And then you have the other brother here, and the really small one. And I wasn't given ages. I just varied the ages of these kids uh, for for the page. And then when we go to the other side, over here, you can see how we've got like an older girl here, a real young girl here, and then 2 mid-range girls here. And again, I just did it where it's like I wanted to have variation, because like here's Harriet, so she was important and her dad's important. These are the 2 most important people in the panel. Therefore, the rest of the kids, even though you still want to see that you have different ages, all these kids are is a framing device for the father and Harriet. So, so that's the reason why I have the characters like I do set up here. So let's see here. I want to get this. So we got this here, and then here. Yeah, that looks good. Let's just pull the dots in here, pull it up to her ear and her jawbone, and there we go. So there we go. So that's how we got it. So, and yeah, we'll put this here. I think I might darken this much more. Depends how it looks when I have all the darks in her. I'm probably going to do her when I'm done with this video. So now don't be surprised if some of these areas I will start working on off panel. So, because I'm trying to leave areas like, for instance, like this wood grain. That would be something I want to try to do that while I'm doing the video. But I can't put everything on hold and just only do it when I'm working on the video. So like maybe the stones behind the father, I'll work on him off panel or whatnot. Or what I might do is get to the point where I'll get as much done on here. Like I'll probably do the clothing on him, but then what I'll do is I'll start working down here and save what I'm working up here for you guys. So we'll see how it goes. It all depends on how long it's taking me to do these videos. I mean, right now it's like I'm averaging between 20 minutes to 30 minutes doing each video. So we'll see. But you guys have a great day. You know, I'm of course having a great day working on this page. So, and of course, as always, just always remember, life is stressful. So please, guys, just take it all one dot at a time.